the AdventHealth 400 from Kansas Speedway. I thought it was an enjoyable race, maybe some mixed reviews. We'll get into that. But first, before I dive into the Cup Series, I want to talk about the trucks at Kansas Speedway. Really fun finish to the race on Saturday night. We saw Lane Riggs with a really fast truck close on Carson Hocevar in the final laps of the race. They get into each other 1 and 2 on the white flag lap, and both of them managed to save it, keep it going straight. Carson Hocevar ultimately wins with the middle finger being displayed out the driver's side window. Lane Riggs was ultimately disqualified for an issue with the truck. I believe it was a deck lid violation. Really a shame for that team because that was a great run they put together, but really fun finish. It's kind of what we've come to expect from Kansas, some last lap theatrics. But let's get into Sunday's race where Kyle Larson started on the pole and dominated almost the entire event. Larson was just the fastest car for most of the race, controlled the race. We had one issue in stage 1 with AJ Allmendinger's engine expiring early, a very profanity-laden tirade on the radio, not happy with the ECR engines, but Larson ultimately wins stage 1. At one point during the stage, William Byron has a flat tire that hurts that team, kind of puts him a couple laps down, gets some damage. We also saw Bubba Wallace get a penalty for a equipment violation, interfering with equipment, put the 23 team behind the 8 ball multiple laps down. Really unfortunate for the 23 team because it felt like they had really good speed during this race. Stage 2, it's kind of more the same. Kyle Larson just dominates. We did see Chase Elliott make a good run at Larson there at the end. Larson was really struggling late in the stages. Again, this is a softer tire that Goodyear brought, different than they've run at Kansas in the past. And we saw that play a role on Sunday. Larson, maybe not the best. I think if there's a gap in his driving style, it's his tendency to push a little too hard at times. With that in mind, we saw the tire fall off towards the end of these green flag runs, really slow the 5 car down. The 9 car was catching him in a hurry. We get to stage 3, and Elliott eventually does pass Larson for the lead. Massive change in fortunes because the 9 car, while they have run well, they haven't really been competing for wins. This race, it felt like the 9 car was a real factor to win. And another guy that we haven't seen a lot of that played a factor in Sunday's race, Brad Keselowski. That 6 car for RFK brought some real speed. It's a team that I think now with their point situation is in a must-win scenario. And it looked like they had a chance to win this race on Sunday. Unfortunately for the 6 car, they had a flat tire. One of those issues with air pressure that we talked about in practice, that we saw the teams kind of playing with a little bit, maybe got over the line. And while the 6 car was very fast, they ended up blowing a right rear tire. Ended the day for the 6 car. Just a gut-wrenching scenario for him, knowing that they're probably in a must-win situation at this point. On the ensuing pit stops, things got a little bit squirrely. Chase Elliott, at one point, has a very slow right rear tire change, kind of mires him back in the back. The one thing for these cautions, we had obviously Keselowski, but then there was multiple cautions in a row. We had an issue with Kyle Busch getting spun, and then a big pileup where Bubba Wallace, who had finally gotten back on the lead lap, falls victim to circumstances. Corey Heim, making the start for 2311, gets up into Justin Haley into Eric Jones, and it sets off a chain reaction that collected a few drivers. Austin Dillon, and again, Bubba Wallace also involved in that. Kind of ruins the day for the 23 team. This was, in my opinion, both the Busch incident before this and the Heim incident with Justin Haley, more of a symptom of how wild these restarts are at Kansas Speedway. You know, I was watching both the Fox broadcast and the driver in-car cameras on Max, and while maybe the battles for the lead weren't great throughout the race, I think just because Larson was so good on the short run, you saw guys just going for it back in the pack. I mean, it was 3, 4, even 5 wide at times, really fanning out to use all of the different lanes that are available at Kansas because of that progressive banking that we've talked about, where guys can run all over this track. At times I saw guys in the middle in 1 and 2, hugging the bottom, right up next to the wall. I think 3 and 4, it was a little bit better to run the wall, but I was on Corey Himes in-car camera a lot in the last stages of the race. He was kind of hugging the bottom in 3 and 4 and making a lot of progress there. That 67 car ends up with a top 15 finish. Great run for Corey Heim. I realize he has the incident with Haley that maybe some people are going to be upset about, but I thought this was a fantastic run for this young prospect, making a Cup Series start to finish in the top 15. Says a lot, I think, about his talent. The best finish for 23:11 on the day. Kyle Larson does end up winning this race after sweeping the stages. Not really a surprise given the speed, and then also seeing how some of the contenders were taken out throughout the day, right? You had Chase Elliott with the pit road issue, mired back in traffic. You had the 6 car of Keselowski with that flat tire that ended his day. I think that 6 car maybe could have been better than the 5 car in the long run. We saw him make a pass on Larson shortly before that tire expired. Another guy who I think could have been competitive at the end of this race, Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin had a very fast 11 car, but then the clutch issues that he'd been kind of battling all day just finally gave up the ghost, and that 11 car had to be pushed behind the wall. So at the end of the race, Kyle Larson is out front, and nobody around him had really had the ability to challenge him in the short run. I think the way those cautions shook out and with how soft the tires were, if we had had a long green flag run to the finish, I think Larson could have been in trouble, because I think he was struggling mightily on those tires. We saw Christopher Bell and Ryan Blaney both closing in a hurry. Bell, similar to Larson, I think pushes his equipment a lot, and I think it actually would have been Blaney in third, where if we have maybe an extra 5 to 10 laps, you see that 12 car in victory lane. What does that say about his luck, though, this year, right? Like, anytime that 12 car has a chance to find the win, it just doesn't seem to work out for him. But again, great performance by Larson. This is his 3rd win of the season, tied for most wins on the year with Christopher Bell. Great to see some good racing. Again, I know the fans maybe aren't too happy with this just because we didn't get that close finish at the end. I think it's more of a symptom of what we saw play out with the tires. I obviously would love another, one of the closest finishes of all time to occur. They're not going to be like that all the time. I thought we saw a lot of good racing throughout the pack. I think the broadcast kind of hurt this one a little bit. Obviously, when you focus on the leader, maybe you miss some of those battles back in the pack. Again, with Corey Heim, got to see some really good passes from the young kid. We saw Todd Gilliland was a guy that I watched a lot of his in-car camera. That 38 car was running really well, the 34 car was running really well back in the pack, making some passes there towards the end of the race. But yeah, I mean, the next gen car, there's still some issues with aero blocking, but at a track like Kansas where you're able to run multiple lanes, this is where you get the ideal style of racing. And I think we saw a lot of that back in the pack, if not up at front. With that being said, next circuit on the schedule, we're going to a short track with North Wilkesboro, and we've talked about this a lot in the next gen car. This car just doesn't run well on these short tracks. With that being said, though, still excited, still love that we're back at this track that was gone for so long. Going to be interesting to see if there's some changes made and some things tried out just to make this race a little bit more exciting when we head to North Carolina for this race. But stay tuned in to Apollo for your NASCAR coverage from the Bayou City, and we'll catch you next time.